Darrell Brooks had been on the wrong side of the law since he was 17. A clearly troubled and disturbed individual, he had racked up charges of domestic abuse, reckless endangerment, and was even registered as a offender. But all of this seemed to culminate in 2021 during the grand return of the Waukesha Christmas Parade. Darrell Brooks, in a blind moment of rage, decided to ruin the lives of countless people by taking his anger out on the parade. At 4 p.m., neighbors reported a violent argument coming from Darrell's house. He and his girlfriend, Erica Patterson, were not on good terms and would occasionally erupt into fiery rows like this one, and this one ended in physical violence toward his girlfriend, leading to one of the most violent and senseless acts ever seen. 30 minutes after the argument, Darrell left his house and sped across the familiar roads, reaching the main street at 4:39 before plowing through the barricades of the Christmas parade at 40 miles per hour. Just 5 seconds in, he claimed his first 4 victims, several members of the Dancing Grannies performance group. He pressed harder on the accelerator, swerving to hit as many people as possible, including an 8-year-old. A few seconds later, police and bystanders began to react, trying to clear the roads, warn others of the attack. This partially worked, and only one more person was killed 10 seconds later, bringing the total duration of the murder spree to 30 seconds. Darrell then sped out of the parade route, leaving 62 people injured behind him. Once he was out of the other side of the parade, Darrell fled roughly half a mile before abandoning his SUV near a house on Elizabeth Street. From there, he fled on foot, even knocking on someone's door and claiming he was homeless, asking them to call an Uber for him.
Hey, I called an Uber, and I'm supposed to be waiting for it over here, but I don't know when it's coming. Can you call it for me, please?
He was given a jacket and a sandwich before fleeing when he noticed police searching the area. Not long after, he was captured by a security camera, which helped the cops approximate his route and track him down. The cops were dedicating all their resources to finding him. They set up a perimeter around where his SUV was found abandoned, ensuring nobody was allowed in or out, meaning that if Darrell was there, they'd find him soon. After 6 hours into the manhunt, the cops located him at a house in a residential area. This is the Bodycam footage of that intense arrest.
Hands up! Put your hands where I can see them! Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Do it now!
Hey, you're taking one of the hospitals.
What did I do?
Where are you on those?
It's your right. You got something with your name on it, man?
No. I just used somebody's phone to call for a living, that's all.
Oh, okay.
That's what I need. Yeah, we'll mail 1026 to blackmail and ready short signature.
Go ahead and take a seat for me, Darrell.
With Darrell in custody, the officers were able to begin questioning him. But they were quickly forced to stop as the FBI wanted to take over the case. Before the investigation began, the detectives involved already knew nearly everything. They knew he was driving, but he didn't own the car, and they had found the car key inside his pocket. What makes this interrogation so interesting is that Darrell doesn't even know what he's being brought in for. The police never told him he was suspected of the parade killings. From the cops' perspective, this almost 5-hour-long interrogation wasn't really to figure out if he did it, but more so to see how Brooks would react. They wanted to see how much he'd lie, and whether he felt any remorse for what he'd done.
Yeah, spread your feet apart for me, sir. Thank you. When this comes off your left hand, put it on top of your head for me, okay?
No problem, no problem.
All right, thank you, sir. Top of your head. Same thing with this one. Oh, face that way. Face that way.
It's the shoulders.
Oh, nice and easy on you. There you go. All right, all yours.
Well, you can drop your hands now. I think appreciate it.
Holy shit. How long you been out of work?
Just a few months.
Anything to do with the pandemic that's been hitting?
Yeah, that's the reason why. Yeah. It made me smooth off.
Okay.
I got stuff lined up though, so.
Yeah. What? Like what?
I'm probably gonna go back. I was working at a sheet metal place, so I'm probably gonna go back there.
The detectives had already found the first indication that Brooks was willing to lie. If you hadn't noticed, the extreme shoulder pain Brooks complained about earlier miraculously vanished just a few minutes into the interview. He was able to move his arm effortlessly, as if the pain never existed, something that would later be used as evidence in court. His tendency to lie would become even more obvious as the detectives continued to divert his attention.
When you left Stephanie's,
It was still daytime.
it was still daytime?
Yes.
Okay. Were there still a lot of people out?
It was still people out.
Okay.
It was still people out. Not a lot in that area, but it was a lot of people out. And it was, like I said, it was people. It was older couples walking down the street. It was younger people walking down the street. People
It looked like an event or something was going on?
I don't know, but it kind of seemed like it was a lot, like it was something going on to where it was vibrant.
How long was it between leaving Stephanie's and those cops yelling at you at the door of that guy's house?
Was it dark when they yelled at you?
Yeah, by the time they came, it was dark.
Okay.
But we had been sitting out there. We had been sitting out there for a minute, me and the guy.
Find how long? Estimate.
20, 30 minutes maybe. We were sitting right there, just like this, just sitting on the porch. While I called me an Uber. I said, look, man, I let him know. I said, look, I ain't trying to rob you or nothing like that. Because when I knocked on the door, he kind of was like, whoa. I'm like, look, I don't got no weapons. I'm not trying to break in your house. I'm not trying to rob you.
Darrell had thought a lot about his alibi since he managed to deliver a lot of very specific details. The officers already had mountains of evidence against him and didn't believe a word he was saying. As the interrogation continued, Darrell kept lying until the cops had had enough. The car key found in Darrell's pocket is a crucial part of this case, as it shows that Darrell does drive, despite his statement to the officers. Knowing that he's quickly being backed into a corner, Darrell tried even harder to convince the officers of his innocence. But these officers had done their research and were about to take a different angle that would hopefully guilt him into a confession.
You weren't out in Waukesha Saturday, just Sunday.
Yes,
Right?
sir.
Okay. You're a part in the investigation. There's a lot of parts, right? In any investigation, there's
Investigation.
people we talk.
for-
Well, this domestic abuse thing I'm telling you about, right?
Okay.
You talked about being a religious man, right?
I can do better.
Yeah.
I can
We all
definitely do
could.
better.
We all could.
I'm not.
We all could.
No,
That's
that's
why.
perfect.
That's why.
Yesterday was a mistake. I should have just freaking watched the game and just
Yeah.
fucking went home.
And that's the thing. What do they teach us in Christianity, Darrell? That they teach us that we're broken, right? We're sinners. You're a father. You got 3 children. 18, 14, and 7.
Yes, sir.
All right. You got a mama that raised you well, and a God you believe in.
Absolutely.
All right. And all of them are. Here's the thing they'll all want is to tell that you're telling the absolute whole truth and nothing but the truth, right?
Absolutely.
I just have concerns if I fact check that Darrell's not telling me the truth. You don't have a car, so Marcus had to bring you out. You don't own a car, your mom doesn't own a car, right? So why did we find you with a car key in your pocket?
It wasn't in my pocket. I don't even know where they said that was laying on the ground.
Darrell was heavily on the back foot now. Eventually, the pressure from the detectives caused him to cave and admit that he was driving at the time, now choosing to change tactics and try to garner sympathy from the detectives, deflecting blame onto his girlfriend and an apparent alcohol problem.
Erica, she's a sweetheart until she gets that alcohol.
The alcohol's the problem.
Then you all type of bitch ass niggas, and I have somebody touch you, and I'm gonna keep my daughter away from you, and I'm gonna make sure you never see her again. And even my mom doesn't even like her around when she's drinking.
I've never been with anyone that is as bad as what you're saying right there, but I think he can attest to it. We've all been.
Ben probably looked like he didn't do it with some chicks, man.
We know. I want you to watch it and see what's in it. Yeah, it's a good point. It's information sharing.
Why do you want me to see that card? Why?
Because I think it's important.
Why is it important? Is it to make, like, what is it?
Well, why don't you want to look?
Everybody think. Everybody knows what was going on.
There's our children right there. See those are kids? See that little kid right there?
Too hurt, man.
You're too hurt?
Yeah.
Emotionally?
Don't do that hurt, please don't.
Don't do that?
Don't do this, please.
The most shocking part of this interrogation is the moment when Darrell discovers what actually happened to the victims. Darrell didn't once ask about the victims, or if anyone had lost their lives. Very likely because he had no remorse to give, and was only concerned for himself. At this point, the detectives had successfully achieved their main objectives in the interrogation: to get Darrell to admit he was driving the car, and to see if he had any remorse. The interrogation was exceptionally long, intended to collect the strong evidence they already had, and acquire footage that would persuade a jury that Darrell had no remorse. This is why they let him lie and portray himself as a selfish, evil man as much as possible. And in that trial, Darrell would continue to paint himself in that exact light as he decided to represent himself. This decision would result in one of the most ridiculous and infamous court cases ever seen on the internet, with Darrell screaming, shouting, and even threatening his way through the trial, constantly making mistake after mistake, ruining his chances of getting away with a lighter sentence. Take, for example, when Detective Jay Carpenter took the stand with a lot of information to share about their little chat in the interrogation room.
Detective Jay Carpenter, Jaycarpenter.
You interviewed the defendant, Darrell Brooks, on November 21st, 2021 at approximately 11 o'clock p.m. Do you recall that?
Objection. I don't get being called that name for the record.
Objection is overruled.
Yes, I do
Grounds
recall
for the
that.
overrule.
Not relevant.
Yeah, it is relevant.
What observations did you make during this clip about the use of his right arm?
Both his arms would come out like this and move me what a person would do when they're normally conversing. It would seem unusual to make those movements if he was in fact in as much pain as he was claiming to us he was in.
You may hear Darrell repeatedly calling objections. His legal experience is clearly based entirely on movies and TV. But unfortunately for him, in order for an objection to be sustained by a judge, it needs to have a legitimate reason. Almost all of his objections were overruled by the judge, allowing the prosecution to continue.
I believe that these photographs are designed to make a suggestion to the jury that Erica Patterson is a bad mom. I think that is what the defendant is trying to do. If we go down that road, we would be forced to counter that claim by pointing out that not only does the defendant not live with the child in question, he doesn't live with any of the other children that he has. He impregnated Erica Patterson when she was a minor in Nevada, and for doing so, he was convicted of statutory sexual seduction, pled guilty in March of 2007 to that felony offense, and is a sex offender on the registry as a result. So if there's any causation that would lead to Erica Patterson being a bad mom, Mr. Brooks has a direct role in that causation.
And that's
Furthermore,
I object to that.
I'm not
because that's a lie.
Let him
at the
finish.
end of the day,
Let him finish.
If we gonna open the door
Mr.
on that, no,
Brooks.
since he want to make a record and not be accurate, so let's be accurate all on the record. Since you think you know so much,
Once
so
again,
we can
Mr.
open the
Brooks
door
is
on.
being
We can
loud,
open the door on how old she told me she was. when we met.
interrupting.
We can ask that question
He is,
too. Then.
Mr. Brooks, I'm ordering you to sit down and to let the state finish.
No, I'm not going to sit here and let somebody be inaccurate on the record.
This is how a huge portion of the trial played out. The prosecution would make a point, and Darrell would get extremely animated, trying to deny it with nothing but anger and falsehoods. In one example, the prosecution mentioned Darrell's offender registry, to which he responded by saying that she told him she was 18. But the most shocking and unprecedented moment of the trial was when the judge had to stop all court proceedings because she genuinely felt scared of him.
So that had to be said. The defendant.
That's not how it was said.
That was how I said. You want to run the record back?
Mr. Brooks.
So I'm the only one. I got one ear that work, and I heard that.
This is to benefit you so
No,
that
it's
you
not.
understand
Ain't none of
your
this to benefit me,
witness
so let's be
has
clear
a
about
prior
that.
record.
Your Honor, when I leave the table, I'm away from the courtroom, and I have to elevate my voice.
So she had to
Alleged
elevate her
record
voice
of
just
ableist
for that.
Stop talking.
Now accept the value in return for value this document.
One more interruption and you're going to be removed to the next courtroom.
That's what you want to do anyway. Can
Your
you
Honor,
tell-
I
can you
believe he
sleep?
has 7 prior criminal convictions, an OWI 4th from 2003, criminal trespass to dwelling from 2006.
Right, I need to take a break. This man right now is having a stare down with me. It's very disrespectful. He pounded his fist. Frankly, it makes me scared.
The judge put up with an awful lot during this trial and gave Darrell a huge amount of leeway to keep everything as fair as possible. Darrell's misunderstanding of the legal system was made even more apparent when it came to his closing arguments.
Good afternoon. It's been a long day. First off, I'd just like to start by letting you guys know that it's a lot of information that you guys should be privy to, I believe. You and you alone have the power. You and you alone have the power. You and you alone decide what is truth and what isn't truth. You should be informed that you have the power to nullify any law that you don't agree with.
Darrell Brooks gave his closing statement for 50 minutes without saying very much, other than attempts to debunk the evidence and acquit himself of his crime. However, one point stood out from his closing statement, showing just how evil he truly is.
It's hard to keep everything together emotionally. And honestly, I don't believe that I have any more tears left. It's been a hard year for the families, mostly. That opens the door to talk about forgiveness for a little bit. With every healing process, there comes a forgiving process. It's not an easy thing for anyone.
Darrell was trying to deflect the jury onto the fact that it had been a tough year for the victims, as well as anyone present at the parade. But in reality, it was his crime that made this year the toughest for the victims. The jury deliberated for less than a day and returned with a verdict that he was guilty on all 76 counts. Darrell was ready to be sentenced, but not before the judge spoke to him directly.
Frankly, Mr. Brooks, no one is safe from you. This community can only be safe if you are behind bars for the rest of your life. The community is not safe from your violent and criminal conduct unless you are in custody. You left a path of destruction, chaos, death, injury, confusion, and panic as you drove 7 or so blocks through the Christmas parade, never once stopping or seemingly caring about the wake of carnage that you left. 4 of those blocks were turned into a scene that frankly is no different than a war zone. This court is imposing a life sentence without the possibility or eligibility for extended supervision. 1 life sentence for Virginia Sorensen. 1 life sentence for Leanna Owen. 1 life sentence for Tamara Durand. 1 life sentence for Jane Kulik. 1 life sentence for Bill Hospel. And 1 life sentence for Jackson Sparks.
Darrell Brooks was sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences in prison without the possibility of parole, meaning that Darrell Brooks will spend the rest of his life behind bars.